I know it has to be around. Like, it has to. I have to ask. I'm going to message Tim Fierravanti.
All right, this is your unofficial invitation, high school bands. Think about arranging a game day theme for us.
I mean, 100%. So I mean, I can reach out to Tim. Unless other band leaders contact us, because the question I have is when's the soft spot in your schedule? Because they're gearing up for their competitions as well. You know, it's like asking the football team, hey, we've got these 10 trick plays that we'd like to have you just practice for us and do. They're like, yeah, but we have a game. So like they're trying to win as bands. But if there's a soft spot though where they could put together and record the game day theme, I would love to have a handful of the local high school bands put together the game day theme. That'd be cool.
So someone is missing from this split screen, Casey.
Yeah, the guy who, by the way, said the most of the inflammatory things that got thrown back at me.
Where is Mike DeMoro?
It's convenient. It's convenient that we've recorded twice since NFA and Ledgerd shocked the state, and Mike has not been in the studio for either of those two recordings. It's been you and me, Peter, standing up to all the noise that Mike generated.
Yeah, the noise, figuratively and literally. Well, welcome to our latest episode of Live from the Construction Zone.
And I'm glad that, it's great. Mike incorporated these sounds. What a brilliant in-the-moment move. Except he incorporated them as a means to dismiss Ledgerd's chances. And according to Coach Siricchio, there's some motivation there in being told that you can't compete, and that you were going to get jackhammered the way they heard. So
we are live 12:15 today. I'm not going to call out the names of high school students who I recognize in the feed right now.
They're all in study hall.
I'm sure this is your lunch period when Instagram is allowed.
So we have the CIAC's semifinal games are today. We're going to go through each set. We're going to pay obviously most attention to double L and to double S, because those are the two that have our locals in them. But we'll touch on each one briefly because I have a question regarding each one. But let's start with, if you planned on working today and going to watch Killingly Ledgerd, that is not going to happen. You cannot do both things. That game is now 3:30 in the afternoon. And so my question for you is, not only is it it's an effort, like that's a time of day and a day of the week where neither of these teams has ever played. What does 3:30 in the afternoon on a Monday do to a team's scheduling?
So I assume that the schools are going to accommodate what they need. I have a son who has had to go to swim meets at a similar time, and they work with you to get you out of class. So I guess at least Killingly's got a bit of the home field advantage because they walk out the back door and are ready to play. Add this to the list of reasons why our current playoff system is not ideal.
Yep. 100%. Because, aside from the school getting out of school, Ledgerd having to miss almost half a day, forget that part of it. Just, you barely practice on Mondays. Most Mondays in a lot of places are light days because of the schedule. And then no one's ever playing at 3:30 in the afternoon. If you play on a night, you play Friday nights or you play Saturday mornings. And occasionally you'll get a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night game, Thanksgiving week or during the week. But Monday at 3:30, neither of these teams has ever had to get up and play a game at that time. It feels weird.
It's going to feel weird going up there and trying to watch it. Not to mention the 24 degrees?
Yeah, it's cold out. That's for sure. I think it helps that Ledgerd, they're from the same conference. They know each other. So, I think that one's good. For NFA, having to go to Southington, 5 o'clock, it's a little bit more natural time to play from what they're used to, but it is going to be colder even at 5. When that sun goes down today, they're saying the wind's going to lighten up. But yeah, cold will factor in today's games. And I don't think it's predictable as to what teams benefit from the cold and what teams don't. So let's start with double L. All right, and I think this is the big question is going to be, can NFA play back-to-back games the way they played against New Britain? Can they follow that up? Southington won a high-scoring game against Glastonbury to get there. So, difficult matchup. Southington, a lot's been made of their last 4 weeks, right, where their last 4 weeks they beat Windsor, Maloney, Cheshire, and Glastonbury. That's a really impressive run. But if you're NFA, you can hang your hat on the fact that one of Southington's losses this year was to New Britain. So at least you can say, hey, we beat that team and they beat them.
Yeah, I mean, you beat the number 1 seed who has beaten your opponent. There's no reason to count NFA out of the game at this point. We counted them out going into the first round. I mean, everything is on the table for them at this point.
I think I'm going to equate the NFA a little bit to the Houston Texans in the NFL. If you look at the Houston Texans, they win because their defense is relentless and really puts the offense in really good positions. They ask a little bit out of an athletic quarterback, and they try to make the occasional big play. I feel like NFA's recipe is kind of similar. Like, the defense is going to anchor the game for them, try to put the offense into good positions. They're going to try. I mean, NFA to win today is going to need to do something similar to from their previous game, which is get a special teams touchdown, get a defensive touchdown, or at the very least, defense and special teams needs to put their offense into short fields. If you look at the game that they won against New Britain, they didn't move the ball up and down the field, but they had 4 big plays. So if that's the recipe, it's like pitching in 3-run homers from Earl Weaver back in the day. If it's defense and big plays, then that's the recipe for them to get to a final.
So I don't hear any predictions.
Well, I'm going to say that before I predict, the other game to me is really fascinating, Fairfield Prep and Greenwich, because Greenwich beat Fairfield Prep this year, and everyone kind of has Fairfield Prep as a standout team. So I think the winner of the bottom bracket's a favorite in no matter what. And I'm not going to predict the NFA Southington game. I'm going to reiterate what I said previously, which is that if NFA pulls off the upset, I will come to practice tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever coach wants. I will come to practice at NFA, and I will do as many push-ups on midfield, right on their logo, right on midfield, as they score points. So, like I said, I'm really concerned at 6 o'clock tonight that I might get NFA 42, because it might take me a while. But there's my thing, NFA. I will come to the field and I'll do the push-ups.
So I've seen the most recent push-up video, and you were slowing down at the end of the set of 10.
Yeah, I need a 9-3 final NFA. But yeah, no, I think if it was, I can get 25-ish. If I do set of 10, take a couple seconds, do a set of 10, I could probably get to 25. If NFA wins with a 40-point, I'm gonna have to divvy this up over a few games.
So I want to come back to this point maybe when we talk about Class S, but we have both gone on the record as being against this 6-class, 8-playoff team system. So whatever alternative you or I want to propose, that probably means NFA does not get into the playoffs. And is that what we want? Because then this story doesn't happen.
Well, this story doesn't happen, and it hasn't happened yet. And I talked about this after Notre Dame just got excluded from the college playoff with 12 teams. I had this conversation about should the Tulanes and the James Madisons of the world be given access to the 12-team playoff? The same question is, should these 8 and 7 and 6 seeds be given access to the CIAC playoffs? And what I'll say is, if Tulane and James Madison just get hammered in the first round or disappear and have no real chances of winning a championship, the answer is no. If NFA gets to the final, I will say, okay, you've made the case. I don't think you need to win, but you need to get to a final. We need to see 6, 7, and 8 seeds make the final, not just some random one, or not just some shout out to the Cheshires of the world who sometimes go 7 and 3, finish 6. No. If we can see multiple 6, 7, 8s get to finals, then I'll say they're onto something. But if all it is the occasional first round win, then it's not enough.
So you're okay then with not having these great upset stories in the first round?
Yes.
If they just peter out
yes.
in the semis?
Okay. I am.
Okay, fair.
I am. Similarly, people talk about March Madness and how these upsets happen. Well, we haven't seen any 14 seeds win a national championship. Like, everyone, it's great in the first 2 rounds. It's a lot of fun. And then we get to the Final Four, and it's the same top seeds. So, like, I think I'm okay with the 8 teams if we start seeing some of them make the finals. But until we do, I just feel like we're just, and again, for every great NFA story, it's a team that got beat 50. There's a team that got beat 60-0.
Yeah, there's a 60-0 Tech school result,
or Valley going up against Windsor.
Yeah,
and playing that extra game, the wear and tear that it does on these kids to play that extra game for the sake of the occasional upset, it might not be enough for me.
Okay.
So prediction is simply win NFA so that I can come do push-ups on your field. L of interest in L is obviously New Canaan, because people still have hopes that Killingly, if they could win a championship, could finish number 1. And I think so here's my prediction here. Actually, I'll save my prediction for when we talk about Killingly. But I think New Canaan has had an incredibly easy road on top of it. Not only they're going to get Weaver Co-op, Weaver Hartford Public, which is a step down comparatively. And Weaver had to beat ATI, which is a step down comparatively. So New Canaan's almost a lock for this final. And I will say Cheshire is the interesting team. Not that Ridgefield isn't interesting, but Ridgefield already lost to New Canaan. But here's why Cheshire is interesting. A, they haven't played New Canaan this year, so it's a new team. But Cheshire beat Sheehan, Hand, and Guilford. Hand and Sheehan both very reputable. Now, granted, smaller schools, all of the ones I just named. But the fact that they haven't played them, at least if it's New Canaan, Cheshire, it provides a little bit of interest. Everybody else New Canaan's beaten. It's kind of hard to argue that they could lose.
Agreed.
All right.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that.
We're going to touch very quickly on Double M in regards to this. We saw what Windsor did against, quite frankly, an overmatched Valley team. Now they get Newington, who's got a much better team, but I still think Windsor's a favorite for the final. What's fascinating to me is the lower half. We do have some local ties to Bunnell, both because they beat Fitch and because of Ty Jenkins, New London's own there. That game against Wilton, Mikey D, who is wrong as often as a broken clock. Mikey D did say the Wilton defense was beyond legit, and all they did is go out and beat Torrington 48-6. Bunnell is a really good offense. That's going to be a fascinating game. But if Wilton and Windsor are in the final, that could be an epic. Bunnell and Windsor would be a great game too, but I'm just looking at a team like Windsor that scores so readily against a team like Wilton that has that great defense.
And so this bracket is the argument against having 8 teams because it's straight chalk, and only that 4-5 matchup between Newington and Middletown was close.
Produced any kind of a competitive game, yeah. And so, and at the end of this, I'm going to wrap up playoffs with the playoff issue again, because we talked about looking back at Thanksgiving. If it was only the top 4 teams, how many of those Thanksgiving Day games would have mattered, and which teams would have been playing for something? I'll do that at the end. Class M, really probably the bracket that holds the least amount of interest to me, just because we don't have any real locals. St. Joe's, Brookfield, Berlin, Holy Cross. I don't think there's a team there that would surprise me if they made the final. So I guess Looking at Berlin would be interesting. They're undefeated. Could they go undefeated and finish fourth in the state? Which would be, that would be pretty remarkable. But that's where they're looking.
I have a hard time seeing anyone challenging St. Joe's. In the M bracket, St. Joe's plays
nothing but
basically a double L schedule during the regular season. So deserving of the number one seed, deserving to compete in a higher bracket. I mean, this is one where Mike's gonna wave the flag of the public school versus the private school that draws from all over the place.
Well, when this ends up being a St. Joseph's Holy Cross final, which is a definitive possibility, if it's then that's the rallying cry right there. That that the Berlin and Brookfield, the two public schools, stood no chance against the two Catholic schools.
Right.
All right, double S, where everyone's interested. Ledyard is a definitive underdog. I thought Coach Siricchio summed it up very well. Killingly is what everyone models themselves to be. If you want the template of what you want to be as a program, it's Killingly. On a local level, on a statewide level. He said, from being so well coached to so well run to having great players to the youth program, there is no better model than Killingly. He also said, though, they're the same ECC football players that we have, which is true. Favory's going to play, which means that they will have all three, Streckvis, Favory, and Cassavant as the big three. The only way Ledyard can win this game, in my opinion, is if they score close to 50 points. I don't think they can win the game if they score less than that, because I don't see Killingly not scoring in the 40s, and I have data that suggests that what's the lowest they've put up all year? It was the first game of the season.
Yeah. It's so of course the transitive property does not apply, but Ledyard's 3 losses, all to teams that lost to Killingly in 40-plus point losses. Waterford was maybe a little bit closer. So I think we want, as fans of the ECC and as fans of Ledyard and Coach Siricchio, we want to look for reasons why they could win. We want to see competitive games too, right? I think that I think realistically the best result for Ledyard out of this is the school and the Ledyard football program, from coach to player down to youth, look at this and say there is no reason why down the road Ledyard can't be another Killingly.
That's right.
They're in the same class. Their student population is similar. They have got based on the grade 8 submissions, they have got a good youth program.
Yep.
So if Coach Siricchio becomes one of these long haul coaches like Chad Neal, Ledyard has been good in the past. If Ledyard can use Killingly as a model, there is no reason why down the road Ledyard can't be another Killingly in the ECC and in the state.
An excellent point. I would say you tapped into exactly the right thing. That come out of it healthy and competitive and with a template for future success. Let this be a springboard for the program 100%. And I think the right person is there. I don't have there's no one that I have higher regard for than Jim Bunicor and Mike Siricchio. Certainly there are other places, and we mentioned Killingly would be right there with them. But those two, if there's going to be two people to navigate 10 years ahead, I think that can be done. So Ledyard, if you pull the upset over Killingly.
My question was going to be, when Ledyard when Ledyard wins,
Ledyard,
what feat of strength will you be performing?
Ledyard, here's the deal. You beat Killingly. Coach Siricchio, I'm going to talk directly to you. Coach Siricchio, if you beat Killingly, you get to pick what I do in response. You choose my mea culpa. You choose my penance, whether it's push-ups, a dance routine at the pep rally. You want me to dress up in Ledyard gear. If you want me to dress up as a colonel as Colonel Sanders even. Whatever you choose, Ledyard, if you beat this game, Coach Siricchio, you can pick how you want me to make my amends.
So my proposal is T-shirt and shorts. You go to practice. We're going to put a ball on the tee 35 yards out, and you kick until you make it.
Considering I have torn ligaments in my kicking knee, we may have to table that until after post-surgery.
Okay. Then I will give you a pass.
Okay, because that one would be tough. As it is, I was thinking a dance routine might be tough. But you know what? If that's what they choose, then I may have to go. I may have to go left-footed. May have to try to make it work with the opposite foot. You know, I'm definitely, and I would do it gladly, as well. By the way, because if Killingly were to lose to Ledyard, it becomes just an epic. I mean, just becomes an epic. And then there's a great example of a team, Ledyard, that benefited from the extra teams in the playoffs. The bottom of the bracket, I mean, it's ironic. I don't know that we've had a semifinal. We talked about competitiveness. Is there a semifinal or anywhere else, two semifinals with such prohibitive favorites as this one? Because I don't think anybody gives Ledyard more than a quirky puncher's chance. Like, I don't think anyone thinks Ledyard wins unless something weird happens. And I don't think anybody thinks Nanawag wins unless something, like, it has to be something off the beaten path for it not to be Killingly in hand.
Yeah, I have a hard time coming up with a scenario where your number 2 and number 3 team in the state don't win in the semifinals.
So this becomes, I said I would rotate it back. What is more likely to happen? New Canaan loses or Killingly loses? Because back like 5 weeks ago, this was all if Killingly wins the state championship and New Canaan loses, or Killingly wins the state championship and maybe New Canaan doesn't even have to lose. All of a sudden, Killingly beating Hand, provided that Killingly gets past Ledyard. Killingly beating Hand, I think Killingly's an underdog in that game.
Yeah, if we're saying more likely throughout the playoffs, then more likely Killingly loses just because of Hand lurking there in the finals. If we're talking, I mean, I guess if we're talking this week also, more likely Killingly loses than New Canaan loses. Like that, Ledyard has proven that offense is hard to stop. So if we're going to pick a game where something weird is going to happen somewhere, then it's going to be in Killingly when Ledyard is on offense, and maybe Ledyard is able to ride that single wing offense and just get 5 yards at a time. And they hold on to the ball, and get a bunch of long drives and tire out the Killingly players who play both ways. Like, is this something that I think is going to happen? No. But
except the Ledyard players are playing both ways too.
Exactly.
So as soon as it becomes a war of attrition in that regard, and you can't come up with any scenario. There is no scenario based on results, facts, data that suggests Killingly doesn't score 45 points. There's none. So it's hard to come up with a scenario unless Ledyard can score 46.
I guess the other scenario is that Ledyard goes on a bunch of 11-minute drives.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the way they have to do it. So I guess I should pose it this way. Which is the more difficult path to Killingly's not finishing number 1? Beating Hand or New Canaan losing?
I mean, I don't see any reason to think New Canaan's going to lose.
So the harder path for Killingly might actually be New Canaan, even more so than beating Hand, it's a double dip for difficulty for Killingly.
Yeah.
Class S is just interesting because Mike DeMauro picked Sheehan as his team that he thinks could come out of that bracket, and they've got Woodland, and Woodland throttled Bloomfield. Woodland is legit good. They are number 1. They have a great defense, and Ansonia beats a good Seymour team. Northwest Catholic and Ansonia in the 6-7 at the bottom of the bracket means there's going to at least be one 6-7 team in the final, right? So there's your example in S of a 6-7 team that's going to make the final. What team? A A 6-7, Peter. 6-7, making the finals. We said we're going to make this uncool if we're going to make it uncool.
I can't hear you. So I think you're right that Woodland is legit. They've beaten 3 playoff teams in the regular season. Sheehan is going to be a challenge, but they are not one of these fraudulent undefeated teams. So S is most interesting to me, right, because of the 7 seed, the 5 seed, and the 6 seed all in the semifinals. So if we're contracting to 4 teams, there's at least one finalist here that doesn't make the playoffs.
I think 3 are realistic looking at it, excluding NFA, because I feel like we're attached locally there. But Ridgefield, so let's put it this way. NFA is an underdog in their game. Ridgefield is an underdog to Cheshire in their game. Chalk, Holy Cross has probably the next best chance of making the final as the 6 seed. Then we talked about either Ansonia or Northwest Catholic will. So you might get 3, but it's probably going to be just that one team of the bottom. And so there goes to what we said. If it was just the top 4, what teams, how do things change? In the ECC, we had 6 teams in, and 5 of them would not have been in had we kept the top 4. But all of a sudden, Ledyard's loss to Fitch on Thanksgiving Day might have been the thing that kept them out. Fitch, their loss to West Haven the week before might have been the thing that kept them out. So, how does it change how important does it make those last couple of games if you know you only got 4?
It makes it super important. And I'm wondering, based on looking at this, is the problem not the number of teams? Is the problem the way we award points for playoffs? Because clearly strength of schedule is not being valued enough. This year you didn't see it with St. Joe's, but there have been years where a team like St. Joe's goes 6-4 and ends up a 7 seed and should be, based on the quality of their team, they'll be a top 10 team in the poll, but it'll be a 7 seed in their playoff bracket. And so you see that like Ansonia almost didn't make the playoffs. And are they I don't know who's the favorite in that Ansonia Northwest Catholic game, but a team that almost didn't make the field of 8 with a good chance to be in the finals. NFA as well.
I think it's a fair statement to say that for like the St. Joseph's of the world, if they can go 6-4 and 7-3 and get in the bottom 4, then they shouldn't be in the bracket that they're in. They shouldn't be in the lower. They should be high. They should be playing an L, right? If they're going to play a double L schedule or an L schedule and finish barely above 500, they shouldn't get in the playoffs. And put them up with the other double L and L schools.
Now, the problem is that we are asking then for a more complicated formula to generate playoff teams, and that makes it harder for everybody to understand. It makes it less transparent, and so I don't know that that's the answer either. And so maybe the answer is we're going to have this imperfect system, and people like you and me are just going to complain about it every year.
Well, it gives us something to talk about, which is good. We could go back to the Catholic school championship like they had back in the 50s. Separate all the Catholic schools, let them have their own championship. Catholic schools, public schools. That was actually a big deal. Winning the Catholic school basketball championship back in the day was actually a big deal. So to summarize, NFA, win, and I do push-ups on the logo. Ledyard, win, and you can choose what happens. All right, those are the 2 big upset specials. I'm not offering anything to Killingly other than my hearty congratulations if they win. Let me ask you this. Who has a better chance of pulling the upset, NFA or Ledyard?
NFA.
Okay. If NFA makes the final against either Fairfield Prep or Greenwich, do they have a puncher's chance?
I mean, at this point, yes, I think so.
Okay. If Ledyard somehow upset Killingly, can they beat Hand?
Sure.
Right? Because they beat Killingly?
Because
right?
whatever they did to beat Killingly means that they've got a chance.
To me, as much as I would love to see multiple ECC teams in the final, I'm thankful that we will have one team in the finals from the ECC no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, we started the season talking about why is the ECC so terrible in football, and I'm not going to say that it's that one ECC team making a state final or one ECC team winning a championship completely refutes that idea, but in retrospect, is this conference better than we gave them credit for at the beginning of the season?
They might be a little better than we give them credit for. I think, that being said, if we look at the conference if we look at the 6 teams that made it, though NFA is making a case, if we said that Ledyard was the other team, Ledyard's going to say, listen, guys, we absolutely gave a game away to Waterford that we shouldn't have. And so we rolled into Thanksgiving knowing we were already in. And even in that Thanksgiving game, right up until Porter Carter makes the strip, that game was looking like it was going Ledyard's way. So maybe I underrated Ledyard a little bit, but I think my previous statement about the ECC, I think the ECC doesn't stink. I think there is no I don't think there's any conference. But at the end of this, how many state champion, if I don't know, does making a state championship game and losing 45-6 mean that is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Like, should we be looking at how many teams are in the finals or should we be looking at state championships? I'm not sure which one's better.
I mean, I guess if we had at the beginning of the season tried to make predictions of where did we expect people, like how many playoff teams total would we have said before week 1? We would have said 4. How many semifinalists would we have said? So,
yes, agreed.
So, a little bit better than we thought they were.
Yeah, ECC's outperformed what my expectations were. I think the 6 teams making it is less of an overperformance than the 3 teams in the semifinals is, because making it to me is a function of the 8 teams. This was a good accomplishment. 3 teams in the semifinals is a good accomplishment. So, folks, if you want to start thinking about fun things for me to do if Ledyard does in fact pull off the upset, I'm sure Coach Siricchio would love to hear your creativity. But 3:30 today, I think he's more focused on what's in front of him. So tomorrow we will be going live because tomorrow is 2 weeks away from the Days Holiday Classic. Basketball is right on the horizon, and the Day Holiday Classic live from Mohegan Sun, Tuesday, December 23rd. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to tell you where you can get tickets tomorrow. We're going to tell you where you can get merchandise tomorrow. And we will also, of course, give a very brief recap tomorrow of the semifinals from tonight. So we'll be back.